Welcome to the Goliath Sourcing Academy podcast, where we talk all things property deal sourcing, packaging, business systems, and outsourcing. Whether you're sourcing for yourself, packaging deals for others, or a bit of both, then you're listening to the right podcast. Get more strategies, tactics, and tips for sourcing killer property deals over at GoliathSourcingAcademy.com. Now, here are your hosts, Mark Dunsmore and Brad Lazarus.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Goliath Sourcing Academy podcast. This is session 20. I'm not sure whether we should be having a party or not, but my name is Brad Lazarus and I am with my co-host, business partner and property sourcing extraordinaire. I know he likes that title. Mark Dunsmore. How are you, Mark?
I'm very well, thank you, Brad. How
Good,
are you?
good. I'm really good actually. It feels very summery. I feel very
It does.
Very
the sun
vibrant.
is shining up north as well.
Yeah, I do. This life is very busy, but I feel good about it, and I feel energized daily, which is great. So, but just going back to our session 20, we should have a 21st birthday, not a 20th, shouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
So we'll hold off on the celebrations for this episode.
What, you weirdo.
I'll put the.
It's like 21st birthday. It's like 21 sessions all over random weekly, monthly, quarterly splits.
Do you remember back in the good old days when we were actually quite organised? We used to break this thing up into seasons and everything, and then it all just fell apart.
Yeah, I still label my bit season 3, session 20.
Yeah, I think that's a bit lost on me, but that's good. So anyway, what's been any news, any interesting things that we should be talking about this time? I think you've got a
rant, another rant.
You've got a rant about people declaring themselves industry leaders, number one in anything. Go on. What's the problem?
Yeah.
Talk to Brady. What's the problem?
I look forward to our sessions. Well, to be fair, I phoned you up about this the other night, didn't I? Mm-hmm. And I didn't actually phone you up about this because I wouldn't want to give credit to the person for thinking that I purposefully rang you up about this. It kind of materialized in the conversation that we were having about something else. Mm. But I think, we've won an award, haven't we? We've the group has won an award for the best property advisory service 2017.
Yeah.
And I made a point. We posted. We've had a lot of great feedback, which has been amazing. It's so nice to see sort of everyone coming back to us, and I think the recognition in the comments was great. What people were saying about us and, about how we practice and how we act and everything else just sort of made us feel, really good about ourselves, and makes you, it feels worthwhile, doesn't it?
It makes you feel like you're doing the right thing and you're on the right tracks, which is kind of comforting to know and very motivating from
Absolutely.
That perspective. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, but then you see others in the industry declaring themselves as the number one in something. They also appear to be declaring innovation and, the first to do something that we've been doing for years.
Yes.
And it's a bit like, well, is that right? Because ultimately we're in a world where, Facebook adverts, email marketing lists, NLP, hard selling. And, there's a lot of people out there that don't do background checks. They don't do research. They don't do due diligence on trainers or coaches or whatever it is. And they just get pulled in by a great sales pitch on a webinar or whatever it might be. And, some of these courses are costing people thousands of pounds, for for a day or 2-day course. And I just felt, sometimes I get angered by it because we hear so much, don't we? We get so much feedback from other people having been on other courses who have ended up disappointed because what's happened is they've been hard sold to on the day. They've turned up to the event. They've basically got less content out of a $2,000 event than they get out of these podcasts.
Yes.
And you just get that disappointment. And then, of course, what happens is then they're suffering, they're skeptical, they're worried about taking the plunge with another trainer or another course because they don't want that to happen again. I mean, to be fair, part of the reason we set up the Insiders Circle was to help people with that.
It was a direct response. It was a direct solution to that
Absolutely.
problem, wasn't it?
Yeah. Don't charge thousands, charge a nominal fee, get them in, get them to understand that there is actually decent training out there from decent people who actually know what they're doing. And, it just frustrates me sometimes when people use very strong claims to get people to register for webinars or to watch videos or whatever it might be on the basis of getting them onto a platform where they're going to sell to them, and then they'll get them on the phone, they'll give them the hard sell. And I just don't think it's right, and that might just be me, but, I've never claimed myself to be the number one anything, to be fair. Whether I think it or not is completely different.
Well, I think it builds you up to potentially be shot down and be judged prematurely as well when your marketing, your headline marketing, if you like, is claiming you as the self-proclaimed leader. I think it's like, let people experience the product, the service, or what have you, and they can then decide. I think that, to me, I think we're more comfortable with that, aren't we? I don't think we'd ever claim to be the leader in anything.
No, I don't think. I think if you claim to be the leader yourself, you're definitely not the leader. I think that's kind of. There's no ranking system, is there? That's it.
But it depends on who's judging this. I do think there is just to balance things out a little bit. I do think there's definitely a lot of value, self-development value in like pointing at yourself and saying, I can. It's like I can do this. I am good enough to do this. I can talk in this particular way. I can present my ideas and my concepts in a particular style, in a particular way. That's a good thing.
Is this your morning mantra, Brad?
Yeah. This is what I get my wife to tell. I get my wife to tell me this every morning.
I am the best property marketer.
But I do think there's a lot of value in that. But I think you have to be careful because you can start believing your own hype, and then you're not going to. I don't believe that gives you a lot of motivation to deliver as well. And I like the idea of being almost not second best, but behind the leader, because I think that gives you the motivation to continue to strive to be the leader all the time. Otherwise, where else is there to go? I think a branding point that we talked about before was Carlsberg, right? Probably the best lager in the world. Well, that always gives them somewhere else to go. Always gives them an upward. They're always looking upwards to see what they can do to improve themselves. And I think that's a healthy position to be in. But to be self-proclaimed sits uneasy with me. I
agree. I could go on about it for ages. But...
I know you could, and you did, but yeah. But anyway, people are busy. And they've got things to do, gym sessions to go to, treadmills to run on, so we should move on.
Yes, yes. If you're listening to us on a treadmill, go up a notch.
Yes.
Go up one. Gradient level, another one.
So this will get you fired up. The Facebook group Q&A session for this question for this week is from Saj Altaf. What's Saj asking?
So this was a good one because it was all about the main questions to ask while viewing property with estate agents. So a lot of listeners will be going out, whether you're investing for yourself or whether you're a sourcer. A lot of people, when they first start sourcing, they get stuck in with agents straight away. It's the easiest way to get going. And there's some really important questions to get through when you're with the agent, just to sort of give yourself a bit of a heads up in terms of where you can go in with offers or what's happened before. So I'm just going to run through a few of the key questions and why you should ask them, and obviously make you feel more professional at the viewing.
Good stuff. And hot stuff from Sourcing with Mark this week is BMV dead in 2017?
Yes. Another rant.
Yeah.
I'm having a rant day. But this, I mean, again, this has stemmed from, we speak with investors every single day. with regards to what they're looking for. And, we speak with a lot of people who have just come off of courses or just come off of some form of training, and the training, having still used the training that's been used for the last 10 years, still insists on things like you must find properties that are 20% below market value, you must find properties where you can recycle 100% of your money, blah, blah, blah. And the reality is, in the marketplace now, it just isn't as easy as it once was, but yet investors still come under the sort of false pretenses that these deals are readily available. And because we're property sources, we've got some magic formula that means that all these 20% deals just come to us on out of a tap. And the reality is it's not the case. So it's a bit of a rant, so I apologize in advance, but if you like my rants, you'll enjoy this. And but it's also got some top tips really for sources, and also some top tips for investors as well.
Good stuff. And in the lab with Brad this week, you'll be happy to know,
Part 12.
I'm at the end of this 3-part. I think you'll find they call it a 3-part epic.
Very good.
Which
BBC commissioned.
Which is actually the third and final part of this online personal branding for property professionals series. So in this one, if you remember the previous two, I won't go into those now, but this is, as I say, the third part, and I'm going through really the stages and the steps of what I'd kind of almost call the amplification steps. This is where you've kind of taken your content and then you're starting to syndicate and build your email list and really start to get your message out to a much wider audience. And this is where the real leverage comes in when we talk about the online elements of marketing. So stick around for that. Before we move on with the show, I should just say, if you're looking to ask a question, get into the GoliathFBgroup.com. If you go to GoliathFBgroup.com, you can join up to our free Facebook group there. If you really want to power up, you should get into the Insider Circle. You can jump the free Facebook, get straight into our Insider Circle, which is our kind of paid monthly membership. So we won't go too deep into it now, but there's an amazing group of people in there having conversations every minute of every day about real kind of high-level property deal sourcing topics right across the board. So if you're interested in that, go to goliathsourcingacademy.com/insiders-circle. That's /insiders-circle. So
the #1 monthly deal sourcing and packaging course available online.
Certified #1.
Certified. I will print it now. Let me just go onto Canva.
I'm sure I can find a crest somewhere, or a rosette. I can find a rosette JPEG, surely.
Well, it's all right. I'll just replace Mark Dunsmore and all these ones I've got for myself and put Goliath Sourcing Academy.
Fantastic. Okay, listen, on that note, let's get on with the show.
Now it's time for the Goliath Facebook group Q&A session. Got any burning property sourcing related questions? Tap into the minds of hundreds of property pros just like you inside our free Facebook group. Head over to www.goliathfbgroup.com.
Okay, guys, so let's move to a more serious note and get on with the content. So, Facebook question this week, like Brad alluded to a little bit earlier, is from Saj Altaf, who's an Insider Circle member. And he actually asked this. He was on his way to view some properties with an agent. I think it was today, actually. Or was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. And he asked a very good question because quite often, I've mentioned it before in previous episodes about one of the things you need to ensure when you're building relationships with estate agents is when you meet with the negotiators at viewings, you need to be thinking about A, building the rapport, but B, scouting out opportunity. You need to be finding the right things out at those viewings in order to know how hard to push things like low offers, or just finding out the information that's going to help you make better deals, whilst also obviously building the rapport with the agent to maybe see if there's anything else. So really, really good question, which is basically, what are the main questions I should ask when viewing property with estate agents? And one of the things that Saj actually referred to was things like the age of the boilers, electrics, etc. Now, you can ask those things, but the reality is that the agent is unlikely to know. Those are the sorts of things that you can kind of guess, or at least gauge that you're going to have to redo the electrics, replace the boiler just by looking at them. So looking at things like the plug sockets, the light switches, etc. That's by no means a fail-safe, but it's generally a good idea in older houses. You can see fuse boards, that sort of thing. And boilers, quite obvious. It'll just look old. Or it will look brand new. So you can look at those yourself. What you need to find out from the estate agent is the information that only they know. So the information that only the estate agent has access to. So things such as, has there been much interest in the property? You know, how many viewings have there been at the property? How long has the property been on the market for? These are all things that only the agent will know, but it will also give you a good idea as to whether that seller is going to have had lots and lots of interest but no offers, or they've had absolutely no viewings, and why are they not having viewings? Because these are all things that you will then use when speaking with the estate agent, in order to just gauge, you know, are they that motivated? Are they just leaving it on the market at a stupid price because they're in negative equity, or is it just that they're unrealistic, they don't need to sell, and it's just being left at a price they want to achieve? You can discover all this by asking these questions to the agent. So, you know, how much interest, how many viewings have there been? Have there been any offers? Really, really important question to ask. One that should be on the question list every time you view a property with agents. Have there been any offers? So when they say no, then obviously you know that it's been on for so long, it's had so much interest, but there have been no offers. So you can take the path then of, what do I do now? I can look at making an offer. Suddenly it's the first offer the landlords had or property owners had for a while, etc. If they have had offers, then the agent is not going to tell you what they are. You can try and get the agent to tell you, and the stronger your relationship with the agent, the closer they're going to tell you the offer is. But they'll never actually tell you what the offer is, but they might hint at what the offer was or was close to. So a top tip from me, one of the ways that I try and get that information out after working my incredible charm with the...
Are you self-proclaiming your incredible charm?
I am the #1 viewing charmer in the UK.
Let's just move on. I'm not going to comment anymore.
But you know I am. You know I am. I've got a certificate.
Hang on a minute. Oh, I've just seen it online. You're right. Yeah. You are. Yeah.
They're all preloaded. You can buy them on Moonpig. So what you want to do is, when you're asking them, obviously you've built the relationship, you're having a bit of a laugh with them, but when you ask them have there been any offers, and they say yes, there's been offers, you can actually start playing around with. So if the property's on at 100,000, you can say, does the offer start with a 9? Does the offer start with an 8? Is the offer in the low 80s or the high 80s? And you just sort of prod and prod and prod. And what you'll actually find is that the longer you keep asking those questions, more than likely, if they know, they'll just come out with something fairly close. At least you know what has already been put on the table. Because what you can say to the person is, look, I don't want to waste their time. I don't want to waste your time. If the offer that's already on the table is above what I'm prepared to offer, there's no real point in me making the offer, is there? And just get them to tell you, because it will give you a good idea, because then it will let you do the numbers based around that rough figure. So really important to try and ascertain what that offer level is. And then, you know, what is the seller's motivation? Are they keen to sell? Are they keen to achieve that asking price? Are they looking to consider renting it again? Would they consider a long-term rental with a view to buying? All these things that you can start prodding about the seller. So, you know, is the seller prepared to consider offers around the X amount, or are they looking for asking? And they're going to say, well, they're looking for close to asking. You go, I know that that's what they want, but do they need to get that, or do you think it's worth trying something lower? These are all the open questions that you want to ask. Get the agent talking to you, because the other thing is, right back in session 1, we went into working with estate agents and building those relationships. What you'll find is that certain agents are just a nightmare and just will not disclose any information. They won't be very helpful at all. They'll just be, it'll be a complete waste of time. They're the ones that then you realize you're not going to work well with them, you're not going to get very far with them, and you may as well cut them out and go direct to seller on their stock. So those are the questions you should be asking. Hopefully that's given people a few tips and tricks. It's not rocket science. I'm sure a lot of you will probably be doing that already, but just try and prod for as much information as possible out of the accompanied viewer. You tend to find that if you get the valuer doing the viewings or the branch manager, sometimes they'll know all about the property because they make it their business to know. Sometimes if you just get a negotiator or an accompanied viewer that just does viewings for them, they might not know as much information, but equally on the flip side, they might not know what not to tell you as well. So just prod for information, ask what you can, and just see where it gets you.
Fantastic, great stuff. I love the whole concept of open questions to get somebody talking. Fantastic. Yes. Good stuff. Okay, so that was the Facebook Q&A. Again, GoliathFBGroup.com, and ask your question on there. So next up, Sourcing with Mark.
Sourcing with Mark. Innovative and advanced strategies for doing better property deals.
Hey everyone, welcome to this session of Sourcing with Mark for the Goliath Sourcing Academy podcast. Now, what I wanted to do in this session is touch on a bit of a current affair, so a current topic of interest, and one that stems from the sourcing business, our sourcing business, Goliath Property Solutions. So we get approached on a daily basis by so many investors looking for those elusive, magical deals that, if we could find those 10 a penny, we wouldn't source, we would simply run a massive portfolio of UK-wide below market value deals with no money in, recycled all back out, and infinite return on investment. Now, the reality, of course, is they are very difficult to find, and because we are currently in a buoyant market, we've got a lot of things working against us. Two of the main things being estate agents are selling properties very close to asking price, or at the very least nowhere near what a good investment would be. And the flip side, the other one, the major thing, is there are hundreds, if not thousands, of investors in the local areas who are going and doing exactly the same thing as us. So they're sourcing properties, but they're sourcing properties for their own portfolios, and what they're doing is they're making offers that, as a sourcing agent, we just cannot get anywhere near, because their yields, their desired cash flow, their desired projected profit margins are all considerably less than what we feel as a property sourcing agent an investor is going to be likely to pay us as a fee. So this session of Sourcing with Mark, what I wanted to do was, as the title suggests, is below market value dead in 2017? Now, what I really want to say, of course, below market value still exists. So don't set, I'll hear a lot of people sort of commenting in their cars, on their runs, walking the dog, just saying that, well, below market value still exists. I picked one up the other week, or whatever it might be. But what I'm specifically referring to in this session is are the 20 to 30% below market value deals that, as a sourcing company, that's what we get asked for all the time. I want a minimum of 20% below market value. I want a minimum of 25% below market value. And the reality is they just aren't out there anymore. And if they are, the reality is that there's so many people going after them, and actually what happens is that people are offering and they suddenly become 10 to 15%. So, of course, the big thing about this, The reason why we get asked by a lot of investors for that number is because that is what the training companies, so the big training companies, are still churning out wannabe investors who are told that they need to get a minimum of 20% below market value because everyone still believes that you can recycle all of your money. So anything that you've put into the property in terms of your deposit, your refurbishment costs, your legal costs, your stamp duty, you're going to be able to get that back out of the property, all of it back out of the property by looking for these deals. So what I wanted to really come to the conclusion of, and what I want to discuss in this session, is that in 2017, so it's May 2017 at the moment, so I don't know when you're listening to this, but in May 2017, the market does not allow us as a sourcing company to source 20 to 30% below market value deals en masse. And the reason for it, like I touched on at the beginning, that estate agents are selling properties. The property market in most towns and cities currently is buoyant, it's strong. Properties are selling and selling close to asking price, maybe a little bit below, depends on where you are. But certainly here in Leeds, estate agents are selling things for no worse really than 10% below market value. Part of that is because they price the properties so high in the first place that actually the properties that look like they're being agreed at 10-15% below market value are actually just being agreed at current market value, actual market value, which of course is what the surveyors will come round and value the property at. So it might not be selling close to the asking price, but we all know as savvy property investors that estate agents' prices tend to be a little bit overinflated, and the offers that are coming in when they get accepted are still fairly close to the actual market value, which of course means when you come to revalue the property in order to recycle your money, you're not going to get what you thought you were going to get, and in effect have to leave more money in. So if you're sourcing the deals, if you are sourcing, whether you're an investor or you're a property sourcer, the reality is to get the 20+% below market value deals, you're going to have to get direct to seller. Agents are not going to be on your side. Now, the difficulty with this, of course, is sellers aren't naive. And sellers are fully aware that properties are selling. They'll drive past sold boards all the time. They'll have agents looking, when they speak with agents, they'll have agents telling them how great the market is, how easy it's going to be to sell their property, and how easy it's going to be to sell their property at this inflated price. So it is very, very difficult at the moment, even with getting direct to vendor, to get these deals. And everyone that knows Goliath, we are very ethical in our approach, both to training in the academy, but also in sourcing in our solutions, in the solutions company. And if I was to come across a person with regards to a below market value deal, and they could sell the property for a lot closer to asking price, then the reality is I'm going to say that to them. I am going to say to them that they're going to have to go and consider looking at an estate agent to get the best possible price, because the reality is what we offer is going to be so low compared to what an owner-occupier might offer, then we're not going to get those deals. Because of course the other thing which isn't discussed as often in the property sourcing world is when you go to a property transaction and that property transaction has not been marketed by an estate agent, there can be potential complications with regards to the property brochures. The property's not been marketed fully, which means that you could argue that the vendor has not been given the correct options, i.e. putting the property on sale on the open market, which means that the transaction may be questioned by either solicitor. So more likely the seller solicitor, of course. But really important thing to remember is when you're trying to purchase the property that's not been marketed publicly by an agent, or it's not been given the best chance of achieving the best price, you can face complications. So something that's not really touched on much in the world of sourcing, but a very key player when it comes to negotiating substantially below market value deals. So really important things to remember. Now, what that does mean is it means creative strategies are becoming more prevalent. They're becoming the way forward for property sourcers to be able to A, get the best solution for the seller, but then also B, have options for the investors. So, for example, things such as assisted sales, exchange with delayed completions, lease options, planning gains, so we're holding them and getting planning and adding value. These are all things that are ways to sort of combat the marketplace at the moment. So the returns are still great, but of course they're not the 20% below market value deals that people are looking for. So moving on to the reality, so investors now are going to have to consider leaving more money in the deal, skin in the game as we like to call it, because the likelihood is when we're sourcing deals, we're not really going to be achieving much better than sort of 10, possibly 15% below actual market value. Remember, this is actual market value, not estate agency valuations. So what that means is that investors and for sourcers, if we've got clients who have cash, and I mean cash, not bridging finance that people claim I don't need a mortgage. I'm talking about actual hard cash to buy that property outright. They are going to be in the better position to get the better deals in order to recycle that money, because of course we're not going to have to factor in things such as finance costs, interest rates, etc., etc. So cash is king, as it stands at the moment. And what the big factor in finding deals now that are going to generate the profit margins that we want is that the money is in the uplift. So the money is in the value that you add to the property. So you need to negotiate off the price at the start, off actual market value, but then the added value that you're going to bring to the property is going to be where you make the profit, and of course where the likelihood is you're going to be able to recycle that cash. Now, the days have gone where you could buy a property, give it a lick of paint, and then get it revalued at 20-30% higher when the surveyor comes around. Those days have gone. These days, surveyors want to see a considerable improvement to that property, and if that means that you've just simply put in a new kitchen and done some decorating and you expect to get top whack, the reality is you're not going to get that. And if you think you're going to get that, you'll be disappointed quite often with the surveyor's value at the end. So really important things to consider. I know it's not so much of a training, although there are some tips in here, but it's more to do with the below market value concept in the current market. Very important to remember that I think it's, my opinion, difficult now to find those as readily. Certainly in our sourcing business, we don't find them as often now. We're focused more on the more creative things, such as things like the assisted sales, the exchange with delayed completions. And so that's why what we want as a sourcer is we need to make that clear to our clients. We have to manage expectations. Any clients that come to us now that are specifically looking for a minimum of 20% below market value, we will advise them that we're unlikely to be able to help. Obviously, we'll put them on the list, but we're not going to waste the resource in going out and setting up source to order campaigns for those clients, because it's going to be a waste of money, waste of marketing budget, knowing full well that they are going to be very, very difficult to find. So as a sourcer, what we need to do is we need to remember that by the time we factor in our sourcing fee and everything else, these deals are going to be nigh on impossible to find. So we need to focus our attention on more creative strategies. We have to stop wasting time looking for the elusive 20% plus below market value deals. And now it is time to think outside of the box in order for you to generate that deal flow, generate that consistent income, and make lots of money property sourcing. So hope everyone has found that useful. Bit of a rant, bit of a comment on the current market conditions, but hopefully you found it useful. But as always, everyone, take care and happy sourcing.
Second rant. of the episode. Possibly slightly more subdued than previously, of course.
And
but
more educational.
It's what?
More educational.
More educational than a rant.
Yeah.
You're right, an educational rant. So you mentioned in there, now I've seen on a number of the kind of Facebook groups and the forums and what have you, there's a lot of BMV deals that get posted by other sources, and they're kind of claiming...
Inverted commas.
Yes. Yeah, sorry. You didn't see my four fingers go up.
Yeah,
right?
no.
Yeah. By other sources, and so which are proclaiming low, quite deep percentage BMV deals. So why is that? Why are we seeing that on these deal threads and stuff?
So generally, I mean, I know what you mean, because quite often what you also see is you get the sources posting BMV deals looking for buyers, but then you also get the investors telling you about the 20% deal that they got recently in their area. Fantastic, aren't I amazing? So the answer is, I'm going to answer it in two different sections. So the first section are investors that comment on the 20% below market value deals. I am not saying that there are no 20 to 30% below market value deals out there in the UK as we currently stand. What I'm saying is, for us as property sources to source below market value deals at that level on a consistent basis, to build the numbers up, it has become almost impossible to do so, for the reason being that I discussed in the sourcing with regards to market conditions. It's more of a buoyant market. Prices are as strong as they've been for a long time. So with investors, you're going to see the odd investor that posts about the deal, the massively amazing deal that they've just got through their agent. Aren't they great? And yeah, they probably have got that, and as a one-off, that's fantastic, and they do exist. The other thing is that they wouldn't have had to factor in a sourcing fee, so they're probably spending an extra £2,000 to £5,000 on the purchase price, which affects us as property sources because we've got to add in our fees. They might have legal costs, deals with legal lawyers that are cheaper. They might be able to do some of the refurbishment works themselves. A lot of investors like going in and doing the decorating by themselves or the whatever it might be, so they're going to save on the refurb costs. So all these things, all these little £1,000 do make a difference when it comes to sourcing as a business. So that makes it difficult for us as property sources to find these deals in abundance. Now, the second section, which is the one you mentioned, Brad, is the sourcer, inverted commas, who posts about 20% below market value deals. Because the reality is, we have assessed a number of these. When we see them, we ask for details because we know we've got clients. We look at the details and suddenly we realize why that deal hasn't sold already. And generally, it is because people are not carrying out market appraisals correctly. So they're not doing the proper due diligence up front. So what that means is that they're doing 20% off the agent's valuation, and it's not even a valuation, it's a market appraisal. We have to be very clear here that an estate agent appraises property, a surveyor values property. Very different. And in an estate agent's market appraisal, at the moment, they're averaging between 10 and 12% above actual market value. And that's based on good condition. A lot of estate agents still appraise property that needs work doing to it at the value of the property done up. So you can see that's going to cause problems when it comes to a sourcer agreeing a deal. So then when we look at these deals that sources are apparently trying to band about that are 20%, 25% below market value, the reality is they're not. And of course, because they're not, an investor or another sourcer is going in there and doing the proper due diligence on that property, the reality is that 20% isn't 20%. It's actually closer to 10 to 12% below market value, which of course then doesn't become a deal. It's a waste of time. Investors don't want to buy them. And that's pretty much, the problems that we've got. So what I'm talking about are true 20% below actual market value deals are becoming more and more difficult to find. If a sourcer had a genuine 20% below market value deal off actual market value, they will not struggle to sell it. It will not struggle to be packaged and sold. So the ones that you see banding about on Facebook groups and public forums, it's because they're not true numbers, and that is why people are struggling. So really important tip for investors when you're looking at stuff from other sources: do your due diligence properly. There are videos available on our YouTube channel about appraising property correctly.
Oh, that's a debut mention for our YouTube channel.
It is. I know. We're getting all promotional now.
Yeah.
But yeah, the YouTube channel. I actually added a video up there the other day about how to find house numbers for doing direct mail campaigns as well. So we're adding content in there all the time. But 2 of the videos in there are actually how to appraise property for sale and how to appraise property for rental as well. So it just helps investors do their due diligence properly. It also helps those other sources, because one thing we have discovered in the Insiders Circle is that we've still got a lot of newbie sources coming in, people that are sort of fresh to the market looking to get involved with sourcing. So the first thing they do is they have an investor that's looking for a deal. So the first thing they do is go and look at what other sources have got. And of course, what can happen is they can look really, really silly when they try and package and sell a deal to one of their clients, and the deal isn't a deal. Their client looks at it and basically completely discounts it straight away. They look silly. They lose that investor, and it can really damage your confidence at the start. So it's really important to do that due diligence, everyone, at that point, just so you don't go along with a deal that isn't going to turn out to be a good deal.
Good stuff. And then I'm here furiously trying to find what our URL of our YouTube channel is. I should really know that, being the marketing guy, right?
Yeah,
but,
you should.
Yeah, but it's, if you go to just YouTube and just Google Goliath Sourcing Academy, there's 40 videos up there. It's a lot, isn't it?
No, yeah. Did you not know that?
Well, actually, 20 of those are the podcast, but the other 20, we have been furiously creating lots of video content, lots of infographics, all that kind of stuff, which we're putting on lots of other different kind of channels around the web, much like I talk about in my personal branding series, of which you'll have 3 of those.
Which episode, Brad?
It's so you'll have to listen to all of them to find out. There you go.
Is it the season
finale?
finale?
A first for you, wouldn't it? So yeah, just go and have a look at Goliath Sourcing Academy. Just Google that, and you'll find out. We'll start to, when our social media guy's back. His appendix burst, so I can't push him too hard to get back to work. But shout out to him actually. I hope he keeps sending me pictures for him in bed, and it's like, no, I believe you. It's fine. I believe you.
I don't think pictures of his appendix.
Yeah, no, not that bad. So yeah, go and have a look at Goliath Sourcing Academy. Just YouTube that, so to speak, in the search, and you'll see the videos up there. So, okay, is that Sourcing with Mark done for episode 20?
That's it. That's my rant.
Is that
done.
it? Are we done?
That's it. Done.
Done.
I'm off. Bye.
No, it's a series episode 3 of me. So yeah, okay. So that's all done for Sourcing with Mark this week. Next up, in the lab with Brad.
In the lab with Brad, marketing, systems, and outsourcing hacks for property pros.
Hi, and welcome to In the Lab with Brad. Now, this is the 3rd and final part of a 3-part series on how to build your online personal property professionals brand. Now, if you haven't listened to parts 1 and 2, I definitely suggest that you do that, as it will really help to contextualize what I'm about to explain to you. It's not absolutely imperative, and by all means continue listening, but really worth going back to parts 1 and 2, and you can find those in session 18 and session 19. So just go to goliathsourcingacademy.com/session 18 for part 1 and /session 19 for part 2. So in parts 1 and 2, I laid out the reasons why you should be building an online brand and how using some basic digital marketing techniques and strategies has helped this process become so much easier and leverageable, and how the ability to be able to leverage yourself and get your message out to the world is now so accessible to you. Now, as a property pro, you don't need to get your message out to the world as such, but only to your chosen target audience or target market. So the point being that the opportunity to communicate your message has never been easier if you know how to do it. And you will know how to do it if you listen to these 3-part series. So in part 2 of this series, I showed you the first 4 steps to building your online brand. So step 1 was to define your target audience. Who is your audience? Who are you going to serve? Who is your market? That was step 1. Step 2 was build your online home. Essentially build a website, have that as your asset, not build your online home on somebody else's asset, i.e. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Step 3 is to create content that your target audience finds useful, it finds valuable, and it positions you as an expert authority in your niche. So step 4 was to create content in a format that you feel comfortable with and your audience will be most receptive to. So where those two meet is the balance. So in this final part in the series, I'm going to give you 4 more steps. The common theme that binds these steps is what you might call amplification. So this is where the leverage really comes into its own. So here we'll take that valuable content that you've created in the previous steps and we'll give it some steroids. We'll inject it with some real oomph by putting it in front of as many of your target audience in your target market as you can. So we finished previously on step 4 in part 2. So let's start this episode with step 5, which is build your email list. So email is dead. I can't think of how many times I've heard people say that. It could not be further from the truth. Email is well and truly alive. Inboxes are way more crowded than they've ever been. That is true. Getting people's attention in their inbox is tougher than it's ever been. That is also true. And there are many tactics and strategies to getting your emails read, but that's actually way beyond what we're going to talk about today. But speak to any online marketer worth their salt and they'll all tell you that their primary goal is to build their email list. It's our primary goal at Goliath Sourcing Academy. Why do you think that we offer so many things for you to download? It's because we want your email address. It allows us to be able to then communicate with you and continue to build the relationship. So that email list is really the equivalent of building your brand on your own land. So if you remember back to part 2 in the series, I used an example of somebody posting a great piece of content on their Facebook profile and how they may well have got a number of views and likes and shares of that content, but ultimately they were building their reputation and brand on somebody else's land. That's on the basis that they didn't have a website as well, remember. So at any point when you do this, the rug can be pulled from underneath you. Now, when you build a personal brand, your asset is your audience. So getting an email address is the first step in building the relationship with your audience and building that relationship on solid ground that you own and is not somebody else's ground, and you're not building it on their asset. So how do you build an email list? So that leads us nicely into step 6, which is offer something of value in exchange for an email address. Now, you may have heard the term lead magnet or opt-in bribe. So what is this? Well, it's an incentive that you offer your website visitors and target audience that gives them something valuable in exchange for their email address. So lead magnets come in many different forms, and they can be an ebook, a checklist, a useful template for somebody to use, a report. The possibilities are numerous. So here at Goliath, we offer a wide range of lead magnets, from our 20 ways to source property deals through to a deal analyzing spreadsheets and so on. But the critical element of a lead magnet offer is that it must be useful enough that someone is going to get enough value from it that they are willing to give you their email address for it. So offering a newsletter It just doesn't cut it these days. You could just as well be saying to that person, please give me your email address, I'm going to spam you. Nobody wants another newsletter. So if you had an audience, for example, of tired landlords, a possible lead magnet may be a case study on how you've helped landlords just like them get their rent guaranteed, have maintenance issues reduced, etc., etc. i.e., you're offering them a rent-to-rent case study. Now, if you were a landlord, would you want the newsletter or would you want the rent-to-rent case study that shows you how you can have your rental income guaranteed? I think you probably know the answer to that. So let's move on to step 7, which is syndicate your content for maximum reach and exposure. Now, content syndication is the process of pushing your content out into third-party sites and platforms. So think of all those websites that get a ton of traffic, your Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and so on. Do you think that your audience are interested in your content? Do you think that your audience that might be interested in your content might be on those platforms? Well, the answer is definitely yes. And would you like some of those eyeballs looking at your content, either coming back to your website and becoming a subscriber in the way that we mentioned in the previous step, or just consuming the content on that platform that they're actually on? Now, that's the result that content syndication can give you. Now, as you may have figured out, part of any great content syndication plan is therefore to build a social media following and engage with the audience on that particular platform. So as your audience grows, your content syndication efforts are magnified, meaning that you reach more people and you get more exposure for your content as you grow. Now, we're coming to the end of this series, but I wanted to give you one more step and a bonus step, if you like. So when I began to internalize this next step, the whole game really changed for me. And so this is step 8, which is learn to be a marketer of what you do and not just a doer of what you do. So industries and sectors are littered with business casualties that could have been avoided if only the business owner placed a little less emphasis on the technicalities and the delivery of what they do and a little more on the communicating of what they do and why it's a benefit to the people or to the audience or to their market. You really can be the very best in your industry. You could be the best deal sourcer, the best property investor, the best at negotiating deals. But if enough of the right people don't know about you, then you're always going to ultimately fall short of your potential to succeed. So don't be afraid to promote yourself, your business. Make a concerted effort to learn the skills of online marketing, the digital marketing, and personal brand building. It really is one of the most transferable and valuable skills that you'll ever learn. So, like last episode, there's a checklist of this whole personal brand building process. So if you go to /session 20, that's Goliath Sourcing Academy /session 20, you can download the Property Professionals online personal brand checklist.
Right, Brad. Now I'm going to be honest, right?
Yeah.
I was really interested.
Is that the time?
I was really interested in this 3-part series.
Yeah.
Personal branding and all that. We all know I love myself. And
in the most charming way possible.
And, yeah. And I've got to the end of this 3 parts.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, did it really need to be 3 parts? Are you seriously running out of content, Brad?
No, I'm just offering. So, I could. It's a good point, and I think when you listen to them, of course, you've listened to them. Otherwise, you wouldn't jump to such conclusions. But all of the content in those 3, this is a big process. It's a long process, and as we like to do on the Goliath Sourcing Academy podcast, I wanted to try and create almost a training. It's a training. So this is a step-by-step, and it takes time. So I know you weren't looking for a serious answer, but I feel as though I need to justify myself.
No. To be fair, I'd said it as a joke, and now I feel like I've been put back in my place.
It's unlike you.
It's like a teacher
It's unlike
being
you
told
to
off.
feel like you've been put back in your box.
Yeah, I'm over it now.
Yeah.
So,
No, I think it's been. I think it's been. I mean, I'm hoping that for a lot of people that are very new to the whole world of online marketing, digital marketing. I mean, you can kind of see the whole point behind doing that overview and taking the time to show it step by step and give some context to it, as I did in the first step, in the first of the 3 parts, was to give people that, all those people that see, you know, a Facebook ad here or a blog post there, somebody wants your email over here. It's like, well, how does that all connect together? So hopefully this 3-part series has enabled people to kind of connect the dots. So when you see a kind of online personal branding process almost being done to you, and you'll now be able to understand it and almost kind of reverse engineer the pieces. Well, I hope you will. So you'll be able to connect those dots. So that was the reason for going into such detail over those three episodes. So now I've got to try and work out what I'm going to do for the next podcast.
I know.
That's the difficulty.
You'll have to do personal branding revisited.
Yeah.
That seems to be the trend.
Yeah.
Have like a series of programs and then have revisited.
Yeah. So we'll work that bit out. That's something to look forward to. Do I have to do that before I go away on holiday, or are we going to have another episode when we get back? Probably something you and I should discuss together, not with the audience. So
we should. We are still live. So well, not live, but technically live.
Because Mark has basically not created any kind of resource download for in sourcing with Mark this week. You've only got mine to rely on.
Touche.
So you've got the Property Professionals online personal brand checklist. You can download that at goliathsourcingacademy.com/session20. And listeners, don't tell Mark that that's the same as session 19's download. So.
Is it? Is it the same? Is it the same content upgrade?
It's a big long list. You know, come on, we got no secrets. It's a big long list of all the things all the dots, if you like, that go from the start of, you know, understanding who your audience is all the way to syndicating your content and getting your name out there and communicating your message. So you can download that /session20 or session /session19. So. Anything else that I should say, we are going to be shutting down the Insider Circle. We're going to get very date specific now, even though we like to keep these podcasts evergreen, don't we? But on the 25th of May, we are going to be shutting down the Insider Circle for a short period of time. Not quite sure how long. You'll be able to sign up to a waiting list. From the 25th from midnight on the 25th of May onwards, you'll be able to sign up onto a waiting list. The reason we're doing that is we're moving all the content to an incredibly powerful new learning platform, which I won't go into any of the details now, but it's really exciting. I was talking to the developer this morning. All the little features and what have you, which allow you to kind of track your progress and take notes and all that kind of stuff, all within the membership area. Some really powerful stuff in there. So if you wanted to get into the Insider Circle before we shut down for a few weeks, you can do before the 25th of May. So you can go to goliathsourcingacademy.com /InsidersCircle and you can sign up there for an incredibly affordable £99 plus VAT per month, which is the best training course on the market.
Number one.
So, anything else to add?
I don't think there is. I think we've covered everything.
Good. All right. Well, I'll let you say goodbye to the listeners.
So yeah, as always, everyone, hope you've enjoyed it, and just remember, keep on taking action, and those deals are out there. You've just got to think outside the box, and they will come. And in the meantime, as always, happy sourcing.